Hey there, Eli here to talk about changes for the nearly unkillable Unearth and Cremation tank. Now just a quick heads up, I'm not going to go over the build itself. There's a link to the full guide in the video description, but in here we're going to cover the changes for 3.21 Crucible League that I'm looking at. First, changes to the tree. One big change here is that we have lost the Elemental Mastery for 1% ES Leech from Elemental Damage. Leeching spell damage doesn't do anything for this build, so this is actually kind of a big nerf to our survivability. So I've decided to take out the entire Snowforged cluster, which gives us another 4 passive points back. And so our goal here is to make up our survivability and to make up a bit of our damage. And so where do we put these points? Over here on the left side, we're going to instead, because we take this mastery cluster anyway, we can use 1 point here to get the new mastery of hits have 25% chance to invert enemy monster elemental resistances. This is actually 7.5% DPS. So there's our DPS back because we lose 7.2 from the Snowforged cluster. So in that one node, we're gonna get 7.5. So there's our DPS back. We're also going to pick up Reservation Mastery, get 8% increased damage here for auras and heralds affecting us. That's another 8%, so that's 5.2%. So we're actually gaining damage in this league. And as for our defensive layers, we're actually going to pick up Energy Shield Mastery for another 2% ES, that's 110 Energy Shield regeneration. Then we're also going to pick up Fire Mastery so that we get another 1 life per 1% uncapped fire resist. This will give us 151 Energy Shield, which brings our ES regen up to, let's disable Frost Shield, 742. So that's pretty solid. And we'll tick this back on for our effective hit points here. And so we'll get those two to up our regeneration, and then we are also already pathing into the Mana Mastery cluster to get our 12% mana reservation efficiency. So the really nice thing about the changes for this build is that, yeah, we lose the Snowforged cluster, we lose our leech, but all 4 of those points can be directly fed into masteries that we're already pathing into. So it's super efficient in that respect. So as for the tree, that's all we're going to be looking at here, just a little swap around for passive points. But I do want to talk about the skills for just a hot second here, because in the previous league, there was a bit of confusion from some of the people commenting, and probably from the way I presented it, that clarity wasn't being used in the build. And the reality is that, yes, we are using a level 1 clarity, because we also use our Watcher's Eye, that gives us minus 10 total mana cost while affected by clarity. We're also getting our immunity to freeze from Purity of Ice, but we get both of these, which allows us to really smooth out the cost of our skills and just smooth out the channeling of Unearth and Cremation. So if we go up here, Cremation itself is 79 mana cost, and we have 142 mana regen. And then of course our Unearth only costs 11. So even in situations where we have lowered regeneration, we're going to be able to cast these skills. That's really going to be it for the changes that we're looking at for skills and passive tree. As you can see here, we're up to 30 million DPS when enemies get onto low life, and that's for pinnacle bosses. And now as for the passive trees for weapons, we actually made out pretty good so far. It looks like these are just regular passives that'll be able to spawn onto our weapons. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look for a +3 max cold resist with a minus whatever to our other maximum resistances. This is super powerful for the build because it's going to let us get back to 90% max all resistances. And because we are using Melding of the Flesh, the downside of that mod, which is minus 2% max, fire or lightning resist, it doesn't matter because Melding of the Flesh is going to say, nope, our max resist is instead whatever cold is. And so there may be some additional implications to those modifiers. Maybe we won't need this instead. If we take away 3 and gain 4, then we'll be up to 89% max cold resist, which is pretty strong. But more importantly, it takes away our need for these 2 points as well as our impossible escape. So it's freeing up points over here too, or it's just opening up another jewel slot. So really there are a lot of implications for what might be possible with this build, and that's something that I'm going to explore more as the league continues. And I want to end on the note that this is not a build that you would start a league with. There are a lot of things that you must have for this build to work, not the least of which is an Ashes of the Stars. So if you have people feeding you currency, yeah, you can make this build to league start, but I really wouldn't recommend it. Unless you have a master plan on how to achieve all of these relatively expensive items as you go and as you progress. The build doesn't even work until you get an Ashes of the Stars. This enables the build to work in the first place. If you recall, our cremation is phantasmal, and because of that extra quality percent, we get up to that 98% chance to explode a nearby corpse when firing projectiles. That's where our damage comes from. And if we remove our 20% quality, just removing 20% brings us down to 58% chance. So it breaks the build. So I really don't recommend it. And that's going to be the end of this video. Just a quick update on where we are with the build. It still absolutely works. If anything, I think this league is going to make it far stronger in terms of giving us extra passive points to play with. And whether we end up using those passive points to get additional places on the tree, or we use them to make the effective level where the build comes fully online lower, either one is really powerful. Because getting to like level 94, for example, on this build is really easy once it gets enabled. So anyway, that's the video. If you guys have any questions while you're leveling up or whatnot, feel free to stop by the Discord and shoot me a message. And I'm usually available one way or another for a question. Now I'm going to go get ready for League launch. So this is Eli signing off.